Good evening. Well, it's our first board meeting of 2018. Woohoo! Come on, little enthusiasm. All right. All right, I'd like to call the governing board meeting of January 10th, 2018 to order. It is 6:32. Lisa, roll call, please. Present.
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 Fantastic. And we have some very special guests tonight, so I'm going to call on our JSA students to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great job. See, it wasn't that bad.
It's like, who's going to lead?
All right.
Oh, okay.
Adoption of the agenda. Do I have any amendments or motions?
I have no amendments. If there's no other amendments, I'd like to approve as written.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Call the public. Does anybody have any cards?
Nope.
Nobody wanted to speak? All right. All right, so we'll move on to superintendent's report. Dr. Chestnut.
Thank you, President Coutre, members of the governing board. A few things to report on. I'd like to start with Maricopa High School's Junior State of America JSA Club. They competed recently at the state fall competition in Tucson, and they are here. Some of them are here tonight, and advisor Jason Goodwin, teacher at Maricopa High School, is their advisor. I've asked him to come up and just tell us a little bit about the club, recent successes, and that kind of thing. So, Jason, if you would just mind coming to the mic, it's all yours.
Thank you so much for the invitation, Dr. Chestnut, distinguished school board members and public. I want to give you a little bit about JSA and what we've done. Last year, a little earlier in the year, you guys invited me because we were the new happening thing on campus, and just kind of giving that a little bit of a reflection of where we are. I guess that's the history teacher in me. In August, we started this organization, and our first meeting had 18 students, which is still pretty good to start things out. Through December, with our last meeting that we did have, we have had 115 different students from the high school come to our meetings. And so we are really reaching a good portion of our kids, giving them an opportunity to speak their minds and have that safe place. And you could see the growth even with our competitions. This picture is much larger than the one we shared last year, where we had 27 kids in the fall in 2016, and this particular group was 43 students. And I know that we've always had some of the best kids in the state, and we had a debate winner last year and a scholarship recipient, but this year was exceptional. We had 4 kids win their debates. We had 2 of them win best speakers, and we had another scholarship recipient. We had Hannah Bailey, who won her debate. We had Mahanri Santos, who's not here, who won his debate. We had Freya win debate, and she won Best Speaker. We had Rachel Knight, who's not here, win her debate. And then we also had another Best Speaker in the form of Zaled Rodriguez. And so we had quite the exceptional group of people involved in this. And to give you guys a little bit of perspective of, because we're the only high school in our district, and so it's really easy to celebrate our kids because that's what we're supposed to do. But to give you an idea of where they are on the statewide level, within this first year and a half, our kids are the second largest chapter in the entire state of Arizona. And They finished second in the state last year at our competition. So they're doing great things in just a few months, and I know that they're doing so much better this year, and they're going to continue. These are the kids out there raising money for various causes, from everything from Relay for Life to raising money for flood victims in Peru, over $500 in the spring. So they're great kids, and if it's okay, I'd like to mention a couple of the topics that they went over. I know I'm running out of time. And then also, if I could let Jasmine Demas come very quickly for about 30 seconds to explain what her scholarship she won really means. These kids I mentioned that were winning their debates, they won debates involving topics about climate change and Paris agreements, kneeling for the national anthem if that's constitutionally protected, providing emergency relief to territories, whether or not higher education is a fundamental right. These are heavy topics from our kids. This is not debating cats and dogs. We have some brilliant minds, and I know that our kids can do amazing things and will, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to celebrate specifically Jasmine for what she received as a scholarship. So Jasmine.
Hello. Hi. Sorry if my voice is a little hoarse. I just got over a cold. So I won a scholarship for half of 5,540, so I get 2,275 left. And it's to go to a prestigious university, Stanford, Princeton, or Georgetown, to learn there. So I chose Stanford, ideally because it's the closest, and also it's amazing. And I chose speech and political communication because I aspire to be a journalist, and I know, obviously, if you're going to speak to the public, in speeches and I guess in propaganda, depending on your party, you have to know how to do it without seeming like a fool, But yeah, and I'm just amazed and still in shock of how I got this scholarship, and I am really trying my hardest to go because I know it's a once-in-a-lifetime thing, and yeah, so I'm going to try to fundraise and, go to a local job and beg to apply and see if they take me. So thank you for your time. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Nice job.
Congratulations to JSA Club and Mr. Goodwin, the advisor. And I told all of them that we know that they have homework to do because they're good students, and Mr. Goodwin has lesson plans, I'm sure, or something, and they are welcome to leave, and this won't be any problem if they decide to do that. So anyway, thank you very much. A couple other things to report on. Very proud to announce that as of the end of first semester, which was the 22nd of December, we had our 6th Maricopa High School graduate from RAM Academy.
Nice.
So that's something to celebrate, and we have about 2 more that are kind of really close and could happen any day or week because they're doing independent study credit recovery online. So very happy to report that, and we had a good meeting with them today and looking for more great things second semester. So very nice to kind of have that program stabilized. We took in 8 new students yesterday because there's room, right? So a lot of good stuff going on there. New teacher also. The art teacher from Ram Academy moved to the main building, and we hired in a new teacher that will teach a variety of subjects. So yeah, a lot of stuff, good stuff going on there. You probably heard about this. On the 27th will be our 2nd annual MUSD job fair from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. in the district office in this very room. And Mr. Beckett is the brains behind this operation. So it is underway. And, we found some great people. A couple of our teachers for Ram Academy we discovered at the job fair last year. And I don't even know the total number, but we had a lot of interest last year. And I think that'll happen again this year. Jeff told me to get a new picture for this, and I haven't gotten around to that yet. I actually kind of like this picture because he looks like a really tough guy. He's a much nicer person in real life. He looks kind of like a tough guy here, but he's not. And anyway, we're starting the budget committee on the 30th. Jeff will be the facilitator, and we sent out the invitations to the committee and told them the timeline. We're going to try something new this year. We're going to invite 2 high school students from the JSA Club to be members, and I think that'd be a good voice to have at the table. So we'll keep you updated on that as that moves along. And here's another topic, issue that we are working on because, as you know, 2018 is here and the Budget Committee's firing up and it's time to get into that planning mode for next year. So one of the big issues is growth and the additional students that have enrolled this year, the 43 additional teachers for classroom reduction out of the 50 from the override. So we're, a year ago we had a lot of excess capacity because of those 43 teachers weren't here, and now they've been added plus enrollment growth. So we are feeling a little more squeezed at every school really except Santa Cruz. So this kind of gives you a ballpark figure. Available rooms, that first column, those are rooms that are pretty much just sitting empty. So pretty easy to move into those. The middle rooms, call them possible rooms. We might have to move out something like an academic coach, or I'm trying to remember some of the other things. I might have to use a stage, and that's not ideal, but it's a lot more economical than buying a portable, right? To use an elementary stage, and we're already using some of those this year for various things. So there's an asterisk down there by the 3 secondary schools. They're currently 0, but there's going to be a number in there because the one thing they have not calculated yet is that one thing you do when you get crowded is you put teachers on carts. And it's not ideal, but most classrooms are empty one period during the day when that teacher has a prep period. And I've done this before in other districts. It's really the only economical thing to do is you put teachers on carts and they have to move literally from one period to the next as for a teaching station. It is not ideal by any means, but it's a lot more economical than buying portables. Another example of some space that we will be able to utilize is Ram Academy. The 2 portable classrooms are available periods 1 through 4 because they don't start. The earliest they start on Wednesdays is noon. Normally they start at 2, but on Wednesdays they start early. So we can have 4 periods in there in both classrooms. So there's 8 sections right there. So that teacher on a cart would maybe only have to go to one other location. Those 2 people could be there for 4 periods. So, you kind of work it out on an individual basis. So anyway, right-hand column, you see the total rooms right now. Please note this is labeled draft, and we're talking this through with the principals, and we're putting in our projections for next year. So anyway, there's a lot of moving parts here. I just wanted to let you know that we're working on it, and it's kind of a fun project to work on. And that's all I had.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Chestnut. Let's move on to governing board member reports. Mrs. Anderson, let's start with you.
I have nothing, just Happy New Year.
Okay, awesome. Mr. Judd?
Pretty much same. I wanted to make it up Saturday. I wanted to make it up there Saturday. Did you get up there Saturday for the march?
I was at the ODP
Okay.
Soccer tournament because my daughter made the team.
All right.
So
Well,
she was representing Arizona.
That definitely takes priority, and tell her we said congratulations. I was out to the Maricopa Pantry again, and that program is doing wonderfully. The line was wrapped around the block at Ak-Chin, and hopefully it continues to stay there. Mr. Stapleton's done a great job, and I know that we have a member of the press corps in the audience that was also there volunteering, so I'd like to say thank you to you. But it seems to be doing a great job. I was attempting to get down there and then get up to Phoenix, and no dice. The line was pretty deep that Saturday, so but it's doing quite well. And I regret not being able to get up there on Saturday. But other than that, nothing to report.
Dr. Miller?
Yes. I would just like to share that tomorrow, Dr. Chestnut and I are going to go and tour Butterfield. You did receive my email. And then Friday, we will tour Desert Wind Middle School. So that's on the plan, the agenda for this week. And as some of you know, I also just wanted to share that some of you know that mental health is a near and dear subject to me. And that today I did have the opportunity to go to the high school and meet with a group of parents at the concession stand. So it was like, it was really, really awesome that the parents in there that helped and started a dialogue. And I know they've been speaking for some time as well. And some things that were, came out that I thought was really, interesting that we would like to kind of continue to work on in terms of just mental health and, what is mental health and just awareness and, especially for parent support. And I understand that there's a group called Parent Support Maricopa that will be meeting on Monday at Leading Edge. at 7 o'clock that supports all of the parents within our district and within our community. So that's definitely would like to share that with parents. And also, if I may, some of us know that here yesterday there was a teenager, 14-year-old from Cochise School that at school committed suicide. And I know that I just wanted to bring that to the forefront that mental health and teenage suicidality is definitely on the rise, and definitely something as a community that is important to address instead of not talk about. So if I may, just in his honor, if I can at least just take a moment of silence for him.
Sure.
And for the people, for his family, for the school, for the parents, for the community. So I would just like to take a moment of silence for him. Okay. And that's all I have to share at this time. I can go on, trust me, so I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you, Dr. Miller. Mrs. Knorr.
Thank you, President Cotray. Not much to report because it was the holidays and very busy, but I did get to participate in the opening day of the Arizona State Legislature on Monday, which is always a fun and exciting day, and everybody's getting along, and so that's always, it's always fun. Day 2 is always different, but day 1 is great, and everybody's smiling, and got to listen to the governor give a State of the State address, which was good, but his follow-up yesterday about funding public education, I'm optimistic that all of those proposals will pass through the legislature, and we'll be able to help all of our public schools across the state, not only in the classroom, but especially with the new building and the new Capitol proposals, because as Dr. Chestnut noted in his superintendent's report, that's going to be needed as our economy picks up, not just in Maricopa, but everywhere. And so I'm hopeful that those policies will move forward. We will see. That's all I have.
And to piggyback on that, I too watched the speech, Governor Ducey, and I'm cautiously optimistic. But now it's in our hands. It's in the board members' hands. It's in the teachers' hands. It's in the parents' hands. It's everybody who's watching on TV. It's your turn. You've got to email, write, call our legislators. Tell them how important funding publication is to you. And we have our Senator Steve Smith, Representative Vince Leach, and Representative Mark Fincham. And you can easily find their addresses, and I think we might even have them linked on our website somewhere. It's time for us to make our voices heard. And so I'm counting on all of you to get up there and do that. I didn't really do too much over the break except soccer. In fact, I just came from the soccer game where they're leading 4-0, in case anybody's wondering. And tomorrow I will be at Desert Wind, and I will be a judge for the 3rd year in a row for the Future Cities competition. I always look forward to doing that. And so that's where I will be. All right, so let's move on we have our first work study item, Maricopa High School presentation. Mr. Rick Abel. Et al.
Superintendent Dr. Chestnut, President Coutray, members of the board, I am Rick Abel. I am the interim principal at Maricopa High School, and it is my pleasure this evening to introduce Mr. Grant Hanks. He's the department chair, and they're going to make our presentation on the math department at Maricopa High School. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, and thanks for having us here this evening. Jerry Early's with me. She's our secondary academic math coach. And she's a great asset at the high school. And we also have Maria King, one of our Algebra 1 teachers, and Kayla Cowling, one of our special ed math teachers here with us as well. So we're just going to start off. We've been asked to present how the new curriculum is going for us this year. And then if you have any questions for us, we'll gladly answer those. So we'll start off.
All right, the first part is how the curriculum has been implemented. Right now, the teachers are using online resources when they have the computers available to them. They present the material, and then the students also have the workbooks that they use for note-taking, guided practice, and practice problems. The homeworks, they either can do online when they're assigned it, or they can also do paper pencil copies that the teachers will print off from the books. Right now, this was 4 laptop carts as of the first of this year. Ms. Rattle has got us 2 more. It basically works out to about 5.5 laptop carts. So there's about 2 teachers per laptop cart. So they're having to share the carts within the department.
Now, the progress we've seen with the new curriculum is since we've made the transition to Common Core standards, there's been a big emphasis and a change from just your basic plug and chug, can you plug numbers into a formula and calculate it, or can you take some sort of an equation and solve that. There's a lot more emphasis on actually understanding the material, getting a deeper understanding of that. So a lot of times with our students, and it's been a growing process for us, but it's not just here, what's the right answer, but can you explain what that answer means? When you're using a formula, what do the numbers in the formula mean? What does it mean when we say what's the initial quantity, what's the growth rate? So, and because of that, that's leading to some really good discussions in our classrooms where the students are having an opportunity to really not just worry about getting an answer that doesn't mean anything to them, but they're having to verbalize the meaning behind it, and also a lot of it's them having to explain their thought process as they're doing the problem. So that's been really exciting to do. Also with a lot of the resources that we have, especially with the online work, it's helping to get the students to be more independent as they're working on the assignments. There's a lot of resources built into the online work where there's there's one that says, show me an example or help me work this problem, where when they get stuck, they don't have to automatically just raise their hand and ask us as a teacher if they're at home and they get stuck. And, you get the parents that say, I haven't done math in 20, 30 years, so I don't know how to do this. There's a resource for them to do that. And then there's also the online textbook, and there's actually links to the homework. So there's a lot of things that the students can do that allows them to try and figure it out on their own, and then when they get stuck then they can ask us. But a lot of times it really does a lot to help them. And it's nice to see that, and that kind of frees us up more to help those students that need more help. And then with each assignment, one thing that we've really noticed is there's a lot of differentiated assignments. We have the regular homework assignments, and for each lesson there's a remediation assignment for the students that are really struggling. For the students that just need a little bit more practice, there's extra practice. And then for the students that are doing a really good job on that, they even have enrichment assignments that will actually stretch them a little bit more. And give them that extra practice and a deeper understanding of the material they're using. So we're just using all those things. That's been really some positive things about the new curriculum so far.
And then finally, what we're working on, the first thing we're working on is bridging the gap between where the students are and what the new standards are. And we know right now that we're really having to struggle, and it shows in some of the test scores. They're making progress, but there still is, especially at the high school level, when they've gone for so many years without a solid curriculum, we're having a lot of gaps that we're having to fill. Mm-hmm. So they're trying to go between making sure that they're covering the standards and then also doing a lot of remediation, which of course in this curriculum they do have those. We have, each topic has a pre-assessment, and then when they do those pre-assessments, it actually can assign them areas that they are deficient in. So they can work on them either as a classroom if the whole group is deficient in certain areas, or the kids can work on them independently on their own. So that's just, there's a lot of ways that we need to work on those. And we know as they work on this curriculum throughout the years, over several years, we're going to start seeing a lot better progress on them when they come in. And I know the first chapter was probably the biggest struggle because that one was a review of the entire previous year, and a lot of the kids just did not have the concepts. So that was a real struggle for the teachers to try to get through that chapter. So, but as we're making progress, and they're having to pull from some previous resources to make sure that they can make sure that they're teaching the material so the students understand it, and then maybe introduce some of those higher level topics and thinking to the kids.
And another area we're trying to work on is anytime you adopt a new curriculum, there's a learning curve to that, and that's one of the things we're doing is, each textbook has a different approach to how they teach the material. So just as a teacher, the first time you go through it, why did they switch these two sections from the way I've always taught it in the past? So just understanding what is the progression as you're going through that year, and it gets better each year you teach it. But then also, how does my course that I'm teaching this year fit into the classes they're going to take in subsequent years? And what are the really key concepts that I really need to be enforcing this course to make sure that when they move on to geometry or algebra 2 or whatever class comes after that, that they'll have the foundation to be successful there. So part of it's getting, the vision of what we're doing this year, but also what do we need to do to ensure that the students, as they progress through the other courses, that will have the groundwork laid that they can be successful with that.
And then finally, the last thing is just, we've covered this in the first section, the laptops. We would idealistically have one laptop cart per classroom, so they were able to come in every day, work on their assignments on the laptops. We've made some progress. We've gotten a couple extra one. I know if we also check, and if other departments aren't using theirs, a lot of times we're able to borrow them until they need them. So it does help, and it's really gotten some of the teachers so they're completely online when they can be. And then some of the other teachers, they're kind of in between. They're online sometime and sometimes paper pencil, but we'd like to totally get to where every teacher has that option to be online all the time.
So do you have any questions for us?
Actually, I've got one. Being at the high school, I know that we made a bring your own device policy. Are they able to utilize their own devices in the classrooms with this math curriculum? Because it sounds like that's one of the big struggles.
Yeah, but most of the devices that they're bringing are their cell phones or
cell phones?
sometimes a
Okay.
tablet, and the online resources they're a lot easier to use on a laptop. So just the screen's just not big enough to really display the material appropriately. Some of my students that do have laptops that they bring to class, those have been very helpful that they've been able to do that, and that frees up a couple more laptops in the classroom. But usually your cell phone's just too small to really utilize that very well.
Cell phones are getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah,
Look at
they are.
He's
but-
getting huge.
But still not big enough.
They do say that it is hard to do it on there, because they'll try.
They'll try.
Like for sports kids, they'll try when they're on the bus to take it. So they'll do problems, but they're not as easy to do when they're and see as when they're on a laptop.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question, or maybe it's a comment, but, so we've invested a lot of money in this math curriculum, and that is exciting to me. But my concern is, we don't have the tools that our students and our teachers need in order for this to be successful. If you're telling me there's not enough computers, that's a problem. So, I mean, how many more carts would you need in order for this to truly be completely successful?
Well, to make it the best, every teacher could have their own cart.
So how many more would you need?
There's 14 teachers, well, and then probably a total of 9 more carts.
9 more carts.
I mean, this curriculum is set up where you can do it all online, you can do it all paper pencil, or a combination.
Right.
The advantage to doing it online is when they take their state tests.
Right.
They're online, and if you do look at some of the scores between the different schools, your blended class that is online all the time, their scores are significantly higher than the kids who are doing them, because when you only take a state test at the end of the year online, and that's your only time testing, your score is not going to be as high. So there really is a correlation between those kids that are doing their work and able to be online, maybe not all the time, but for quite a bit of it, as to those that are only doing paper pencil.
So
it's-
you've got
it's not like
14,
we
you've
can-
got 14 math teachers, right? Is that what
Well,
I
with
heard
the
you
sped
say?
teachers, we do, yes.
Okay. So you would need 9 more carts. Okay. So my next question would be for Dr. Chestnut. Can we use Title I money? You knew this was coming. Title I money in order to get some more computer carts at the high school.
That's how they earmark their funds already, and I think that's maybe where the new carts came from that you received at mid-year, just recently, right?
No, the ones we got mid-year, I think were from the other departments, weren't they?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Heidi reallocated, some of the departments weren't utilizing the cards as much, and so she was able to take a couple of those and give them to the math department. But we haven't gotten any of the new ones yet.
I'm a little unclear where we're at with the Title I order. I know we put in a big order for computers with Title I funds this year, and some of them were requested at the high school. And where that we are in receiving that order, I'm not sure. But also another revenue source, of course, is override funds. We've earmarked $500,000 a year for instructional technology.
Okay. I know, I just want to make sure that
Right.
it sounds like there's some gaps on our part, and that bothers me. So,
Thank you. I have a quick question. I agree with Mrs. Anderson's assessment. I'm hopeful that we can get a cart in every classroom, especially since, so that we can fully utilize this curriculum. So we look forward to that and supporting you guys in the classroom. My question is, other than laptops, we've had, do you have smart boards or do you have Mimios? Do you need that type of technology? Some of the elementary schools have it, and they say it's really helpful for this curriculum. But I just want to know the status of that at the high school.
I think we have about half of the math teachers that have a Mimeo, and those of us that have it really enjoy it, and it is quite helpful. But I'm sure the rest of the department, if that's ever available, would certainly welcome that opportunity to have more Mimeos and technology in the classroom.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yes, in information technology, there's a lot of capital kind of put into what's called the user experience. And I see with this, with our, what we're using for math, that the users would be, the students, the teachers, and the parents too, I guess, which would be kind of an adjunct of the students. Is there any way that with what we have that we can measure like the user experience and ways of kind of that quality improvement process to improve the user experience in order to kind of help the overall process? Is there any tools within that to measure the user experience? Because there's a lot of research and talk just in how important overall the user experience is in using technology. So I'm just wondering if there's anything that you can share on that topic, if at all.
For me, it's just been feedback when I've interacted with my students to see what their feedback's been. And I have some students that get a little bit frustrated with the technology because it takes longer, especially the ones that are the students that can calculate things in their head really quick. It takes them longer to type it in on the computer. But then I've had some students that say, I love the online homework. I love the experience being able to get the help. And then the nice thing about doing it online is when they do their assignments, as soon as they are done with the problem, they hit submit, it tells them right away if they're right or wrong, so they can keep working on it, and they actually know if they're doing well. If not, they have, when they do it paper pencil, they have to wait till they come back to class the next day to see if they're getting it right. So for me, it's been more just interaction with my students and the feedback I've gotten on that. So there's not really anything I personally have done to get other feedback about that.
So then what I'm hearing is that basically the vendor itself, within the package, there's any type of measures in order to kind of measure that and kind of continuously improve, that process. And because it sounds like that you're doing that. And I'm wondering, are you like creating some type of a standardized rubric in order to, like if, then, for all the students to kind of address some of the user type of issues that they may be, especially if you're seeing certain, patterns?
I don't think we've gotten to the point of really addressing issues like that. Yeah, if there's something major comes back, usually there's a lot of feedback from my students anyway. They're pretty good at emailing me or letting me know. So pretty much it's been, as we've experienced certain issues, we've kind of addressed those as they've come up. But
Okay.
I don't think we've got anything really in place right now to deal with that. But that might be something we should.
So then what I'm hearing is then you're able to individually kind of tailor some of the things just by, coaching and talking and teaching as you would do. But overall, as a system, there's really no type of tools or to kind of, because we all learn different, and so I just kind of wondering in that area. So, okay, thank you.
Mr. Judd, do you have any questions?
Not to continue to beat this drum that I obviously has been beaten already twice. The technology component of the curriculum, when we sit down and make decisions about what we need, the technology component has to come into consideration. What do we have on hand in order to be able to meet the needs of the curriculum that we're getting? Because otherwise, we're not making out with what we're buying. We're not getting the full value of it. So that needs to be, I think, going forward for us, as board members, we need to start taking a look at what is the technology on hand. We're going to make do, obviously the teachers are going to make do with what they have, but I think that factors in. But that's stating the obvious. As far as a statement to the public, right now, from what I'm hearing, what you can do right now is if you have a junior or senior in the math department, you have a laptop sitting at home, have them bring it to school. You're going to free up another school laptop for someone that doesn't have one, so that's how you can help out the school system right now.
Well, and I do know that, we know that the technology does play a big component. It's a big part of this new math curriculum. But we also knew that, we couldn't afford to put laptop carts in every classroom, but that's what the override funds are going to help
Right.
moving from year to year to year. But we couldn't wait any longer before getting a new math
Yeah,
curriculum.
we were at 11 years, so.
This was
Time is
long
up.
enough, and they've already got, a big hurdle, just like she said, Mrs. Early said, just closing that gap from what they've been doing, and in 2 years, we're going to see those improvements. But that gap is going to be smaller and smaller the longer we get into this. So appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Two
you.
very awesome teachers, by the way, just saying. All right. Our next work study is our Title I program, and I don't see Krista. Are you Krista today?
I'm Krista.
All right. Well, welcome, Krista.
On Friday, Krista broke her ankle, and the doctor told her to stay off her ankle until at least this Friday. So
Okay.
I'm going to make this presentation tonight on behalf of Krista. So what is Title I? You've probably been asking yourself that question. Definition is, it provides federal funding to schools to help students who are low achieving or at most risk of falling behind. Title I is allocated to schools based on the percentage of students receiving free reduced lunch. And schools with a percentage of at least 40% are eligible for a school-wide program. If you're under 40, like between 35 and 40, you can only help kids that are on free and reduced lunch. But if you're over 40, you can help any kid in the school. So that's kind of a nice thing if you're in that category. And these are our current free and reduced lunch rates. As a district, our rate is 57%, which is right about the state average. State average is 58%. And then you can see our free and reduced percentages vary from a high of 67% at Maricopa Elementary School to a low of 45% at Hingham Butte Elementary. And we're always trying to update this because we want families to take advantage of this if they would like to. And so applications were resent, I believe, this week. Mm-hmm. So try and keep that current. So here's the process that we go through each year. I didn't do a good job of explaining this at our last board meeting, so I will try again with Krista's slides. It's an annual process, and the best way to describe it is when it starts in the spring, the site council meets and sets draft goals. Sometimes we call that the Title I Parent Council. Sometimes we call that the PAC, Parent Council. Sometimes we call it the Site Council. PTOs sometimes are involved. Each school does a little different, but there's a meeting. And then the governing board approves the anticipated Title I budget as part of the annual budget process. So in July, you approved $1.3 million on July 12th, anticipated Title I revenue for this school year. Then this year we put in a new step, and we had teacher leadership teams that met a total of 4 times. It started with our administrative retreat. That was kind of the foundation of our administrative retreat. It wasn't just administrators, it was teacher leaders, and we talked about the big picture, what the district is doing, and then how Title I can fit into that. And, we try to coordinate our required school, ELITE is usually what it's called at ADE. It's also called the Integrated Action Plan. We have a lot of acronyms, We try to make that coordinate with our strategic plan. So anyway, that was part of that discussion that started in July. And then the teachers and the school sites determined the actual goals and expenditures for Title I. And they worked on that July, August, September, wrapped it up in September. They had to come up with a plan. And then that information from that committee, I didn't make that clear, that in September that was a committee, that is presented to the faculties at each school. And with the help of the principal, the teachers, the school sites, they come up with the goals, strategies, and the action steps on how to follow through on that, what's going to go in their ELITE plan for their school, right, that coordinates with the strategic plan. And so then, in other words, they're making decisions on how they want to spend their Title I allocation, and it's allocated by school. we are told that the site funding allocations must align with the school and district goals, so I've kind of covered that already. And then ADE requires evidence to be uploaded as part of this submission that's online. So they have to have evidence of minutes from a parent meeting, and, you know, they have to have all that stuff written down. And then the final integrated action plans, or ELITE plans, were submitted to Teaching and Learning Department, that's Krista, by September 22nd of this year, and then that plan was sent into ADE. And then we wait, because our Title I grant isn't automatically approved. We have to be in compliance with all this stuff, or we don't get the money. So the good news is that we were approved, I believe in November-ish. I don't remember the exact date. I tried to look that up today. I couldn't find it. Then we are required to do quarterly monitoring and make sure those budgets are being spent and that kind of thing by school site. Then we do a final assessment that we submit to ADE to show, you know, here's the progress we made, here's how we spent the money and that kind of thing. And then we start over in the spring. So that's the process we go through each year. And how do we use Title I funding? So kind of about 4 or 5 major categories. Instructional staff is a big one. Academic coaches are obviously the biggest part of that, but we also provide summer school teachers. Maricopa Wells, they ask for tutoring, and they're going to do their tutoring after school, and that's how they're doing theirs. And then, as you know, we have this request for elementary paras. The reason, normally, I mean, one reason this has seemed a little different is normally the board isn't really too involved truly in the Title I planning process or budget development process, other than approving the total amount as part of the general budget. But as required by board policy, when we add new positions, we need to bring those to you. So that's the reason, and that's the reason for the request of the 6 paras. The other big category is instructional expenditures. So we talked about laptops and carts already, overhead projectors, and then the site licenses for things like reading A through Z, Raz Kids, vocabulary A to Z. We put $50,000 in instructional supplies. You remember that. As a Title I school, we are allowed to provide that because, the law says if you're Title I school, you can't make students bring all the supplies. They can bring some. And then, of course, support staff, I guess academic coaches are listed twice there. I'm not sure how we did that. Support expenditures, I guess that's the supplies for students. It's up there twice, too. And then we're required to do district set-asides. We have to set aside some for homeless, professional development, that kind of thing. So there's a bunch of different pieces of the pie, but that's how the funding is used. So anyway, that's kind of the overview, and I'll be glad to answer any questions. I know Mr. Roush knows a lot about this too, so we'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
I just wanted to say thank you, Dr. Chestnut, for sending out that email. That gave a lot of clarity, at least to me, in terms of what was going on behind what everyone sees in terms of making the decisions in terms of how that Title I is divided up. I think, and this is an assumption on my part, but I'm not sure if we all realize exactly what went into the process of making those decisions. And I think last meeting it was a concern that we wanted to make sure that there was a lot of eyeballs on making that decision with that much money. So I think seeing that process went a long way to explaining that. So I thank you for that information.
Yeah, one thing I also forgot to mention, just in reference to the 6 paras that were built into the integrated action plans, I think I said in my email that 3 schools had requested tutoring that would be done by paras. There was actually a 4th one. That is a typo. Maricopa Elementary School, in the integrated action plan that I sent you, it does say technology, but that's a typo, and that is supposed to be tutoring. So there was 4 elementaries that specifically requested that. And then I think I explained in that same email that because the budget was, the Title I grant was approved, we know that we can fund everything that's listed in the integrated action plan, plus we can provide 6 paras. And this week, Santa Rosa and Saddleback ran that by their teachers to say, hey, would you like to have a para for the rest of the semester full-time, or would you rather spend it on technology or site licenses as was originally listed in our integrated action plan for those 2 schools? And the vote at Santa Rosa was 20-4 in favor of a para, and at Saddleback it was 35-1. So they did have an opportunity to weigh in on that, and of course it was discussed last month as well, but I don't think I know a vote wasn't taken at those 2 schools. So they came up with those numbers today.
Again, I thank you for that information.
So I have a couple questions. So how you say each school's their site council or reps decide how they want to spend that and allocate that money. How is the money, does each school know how much money they're getting? And how is that divided up? Is it per their Title I numbers, or is it per school head count?
Well, Karen's here also. I'm pretty sure it's head count per school, isn't that right? Title I allocations?
Aaron, we need it on the mic because we've got, people watching us out in TV land. Tons of people, millions of people watching us. We're going to be the next YouTube sensation.
Terry? No, she really will. I just asked them to come just in case, and they specifically work on these grants. Terry Poncel's our grant coordinator that works with Krista on this specific grant. So, again, we are what's known as a district-wide Title I school, and there are specific compliance requirements. And I used to audit this stuff, but I don't always remember every single piece of this. So, do you know that question about how it's allocated?
Yes, I do. Hello, good evening. So it is both. It is per pupil allocation, and it is dependent on the percentage of poverty. So you might have a large school with 2,000 children and a very low poverty count, so they're not going to get as much as they would if it were the opposite.
And
Okay.
I have a follow-up question. I don't know if Dr. Chestnut will know the answer, or maybe you should stay. But, so, of the entire 1.3 million, is that divvied up per school, or is there a piece of it that the district office uses to buy things like supplies for students or academic coaches? Or
Right, great question. We have what's called set-asides, and that comes off the top, and those are part of the grant application process. There are administrative costs available, but we haven't used them. So it would be for, let's say, an administrator that needed to attend a conference or wanted to do something with their school, that we would be able to pay for that from the set-aside money. Very small percentages versus the overall allocation. And then from then, each school gets their little piece of the pot. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
So the second part of are you done?
Well,
No, go ahead.
I mean, at some point, I would just like to see what each school gets in total dollars, because if 1.3 million, we have 9 schools.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money.
But it's
for a
not
school.
equally divided.
Well,
It's
But even, I mean.
right.
You're just wanting to see the data, the
That's,
numbers.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
what
just
the
rough math,
breakdown.
it's over $100,000 per school. Obviously, it's not, because some schools are smaller and some schools are bigger, but still, that's a large chunk of money. And I don't,
Well, I guess
Yeah,
that's
we-
part of
we
my
can-
other question is, when the site councils are deciding what they want to use their Title I money for, are they given an amount? Are they given, you know what, Maricopa High School, you've got $100,000 of Title I money, and given the complete list of here's what you can spend it on?
Yes.
So they know how much money they're looking at when they go into their site
Yes,
council meetings?
That's correct.
Okay.
I have information from the grant application that will list each school, the poverty percentage, how many students are enrolled, and what the allocation is. If you'd like that, I could provide that to you.
That'd be interesting to see.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Because I feel like there's a breakdown in communication somewhere, where as to what the money is used for, and this was a great slide. I wish it had been in part of the agenda packet so that other people could see it. But I don't know that the message is getting to the schools, that some of the things that they want can be bought with Title I money. I'm concerned that there's a breakdown in that messaging.
I think, and I'm not in all of those meetings and not fully, but they historically are given that information, and they tend to make those decisions. So we can bring some of that information to you, I think. And again, it's mostly out of the, working with
No, I
the curriculum
appreciate
department,
that.
Yeah. So-
And then my next question is the budget committee going to have this information? So that they know when they're talking budget stuff, they can see, oh, that goes to the school, that could be Title I, like specific things that they ask about.
If I remember correctly, that our streams in Title I, maybe not for the coming year in terms of what it's being spent on.
Yeah,
That-
because
that
the
number's
budget
always
commi-
being
the budget
provided
committee
in the
doesn't get to
binders.
decide what
Yeah.
that money's spent on.
We don't get to,
Right.
they don't get to choose what to spend it on, but I'm fairly certain in the binders that have gotten in the past, that number was included. That was part of
Yeah.
the overall
Funding,
information.
yeah.
Yeah.
But just so when they come up with, oh, we need more laptops, someone can say, oh, that's part of this Title I area.
They did,
Right,
they
yeah,
did
they
talk
provide-
about
yeah,
that.
they provide that
They did talk
in the
about that
binders.
because I
Okay.
remember when we talked about what Krista said about like times for like the B teachers planning their curriculum. Krista said what she could use Title I funds for. So they did explain that in the budget committee, what Title I would be covering.
Yeah, if I recall, it's the total amount that's being provided by Title I is being made available, not the specifics, but when something comes up that's already is capable of being covered by Title I, someone there will pipe up to say, we're going to use Title I funds for that.
Mr. Roush.
If you will. Many may remember I kind of brought the whole budget committee concept into the district. Yeah, we, in the business office, we facilitate all the information, and every year, every single grant is potentially reviewed. A lot of people don't want to review it, so we don't talk too much about it, but we put it in our binder, and there's an opportunity to review any or all of every revenue and expenditure in the district. Now, as the budget committee, that's good information, but it's not what we ask folks to make a decision on at that particular time frame, and per the compliance, the federal compliance, we really can't. We need to follow the federal compliance, and the state then gives us those directives. But the information is available, and it can be detailed out in any fashion that we want. So those are very good questions, and we're always happy to be completely open and on all of that. So.
Any other questions, comments?
No, thank you.
Thank you so much. Dr. Chestnut, thank you for stepping in for Krista. I hope she feels better soon. All right. Consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
I'll motion to approve the consent agenda as written.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Yay. Action items. My favorite part. Mr. Beckett, discussion and possible approval of the personnel schedule.
Thank you, President Coutray. I'm going to miss hearing you say that every meeting.
I
So
know.
thank you, governing board members. Dr. Chestnut, you have the personnel schedule in front of you this evening, and I'll take any of your questions at this point in time.
Any questions for Mr. Beckett? Any motions?
If there's no further discussion, motion to approve?
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Beckett. Item B, discussion and possible approval of the superintendent performance pay plan for 2017-18. Dr. Chestnut, you want to shed some light?
Yes, this annual event, state law requires that a superintendent in every school district have a performance pay plan, and so this has to be approved on an annual basis, and the proposal is in the agenda.
Does anybody have any questions?
I have no questions. If there aren't any, I would like to approve as written.
All right. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
A motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item C, discussion and possible approval of Title I paraprofessionals positions. Dr. Chestnut or Mr. Beckett, who wants to take lead on this?
Well, we can take turns if we need to.
Okay.
I think it's pretty clear what we're talking about here, and I recommend approval.
Any discussions?
There's no discussion. I would like to approve the plan as written.
All right.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Opposed.
Motion passes 3-2. Item D, discussion and possible approval of the Director of Technology position. Dr. Chestnut?
Yes, I would like to say a few things on this. Get my right piece of paper here. and Mr. Beckett may have to be part of this discussion as well, but our network coordinator was recently hired, and we were very excited to have a network coordinator position. And as you know, our technology has gotten more complex over the years, and one great event was when Octane grant funds paid to build out the wireless network in 8 schools that didn't have it. We had it at the high school and not at the others. So that was a wonderful next step. We've added a lot of computers and carts over the years with Title I funds primarily, and then this year with override funds we were able to add another 600 or so laptops and the carts that go with them. So a lot of progress in the area of technology, which is pretty exciting, and then a lot more use, right? So state testing is now online, and we're getting more sophisticated with our benchmark testing. We were using Galileo for a number of years. We switched this year to School City, but that's also a big part of our academic program as well. So really depend on that network, and we came to realize that we needed a network coordinator. We didn't have one. We had a couple of our tech staff that were kind of studying for that, but they hadn't received that certification yet, and we just realized we needed that level of certification. So we're very pleased to hire that position, and that person has been with us for about a month and is doing a super job. Really appreciate him being here. Try not to use names today, probably not necessary to use names. Anyway, and if I slip, I may slip so you'll know the name anyway. But I and the cabinet are recommending that we reclassify our network coordinator from his current role to the director of technology position. This person would continue in his present role as the district's network coordinator, but he would also assume overall leadership for the technology department. He would supervise and evaluate staff and that kind of thing. And as I mentioned, the reason is because of the hundreds of devices we've added over the last several years, and because we have had issues with network functionality and stability and performance. We are making progress on that now with the addition of our network coordinator. But the fact of the matter is, to keep a person in that position, we will need to pay a higher salary, whether it's this network coordinator or a future network coordinator. Mr. Beckett calculated the regional salaries for people, network coordinators with that skill level, not just in education, but in all industries. And the median income in Phoenix is $95,500 with a range of $88,000 to $105,000. And that is the range in the region. The School Board Association, they list a range just in school districts in our state from 50,000 to 116. So there is quite a range, there's no doubt about that. But we are in many ways competing with that median salary. We believe that having a network coordinator on staff will save us a lot of money on consultants. We hire a lot of consultants to fix things that that our current staff, doesn't know how to fix. And I say that respectfully because I have a lot of respect for our current tech staff. It's just, you can't expect everybody to know everything. And that's the reason for the higher levels of education and certification. So that's the rationale for this recommendation, and we'd be glad to take any questions.
So with with this reclassification, obviously will come more responsibility. So if we're going to spend more money in the front end, how much do we have a ballpark figure of how much with this new position would save us in the back end?
Yes. Our network coordinator, since he's been on the job, he has identified 16 projects that we need to work on. Some of these we knew about before he came, and some of them, he's kind of brought to our attention. And if we hired consultants to do all of those things, it would cost us about $200,000. If our own staff is able to fix those things, and our network coordinator assures me that between himself and the rest of the staff, they will be able to fix these things. They will have to spend some money on some hardware and some software, about $40,000. So that's a savings of somewhere around $160,000 just to take care of those 16 projects. Those 16 projects, most of them are cheap to fix. They can be fixed for not very much, but 4 of them are expensive. 4 of them in particular are expensive, and that would be the savings on those 4, about $166,000 to fix those 4 things with our current staff, not hiring consultants. And that I did not include the higher salary we'd be paying to our network coordinator, to get that done over this next year, but I think you get the idea.
Very good.
I have a question. This might be for Mr. Beckett, but so with this promotion, this position, will the director of technology have the full autonomy to review all of the personnel underneath him in the tech department and recommend renewal or non-renewal based on their skills going forward?
Yes, is the answer.
Okay.
That is the intent of the move, that this individual would actually take over leadership of the department, both in the evaluation, direction. They would have sole accountability and responsibility for running that department as well as the personnel there.
So they will have
Yes.
the discretion to renew or non-renew their employees?
As long as they go through the proper procedure, yes,
Right.
they can, yes.
Okay. Because I think that's important.
I think it
with
is
change.
important. I think it is important. I guess the other point I was going to make that I think equally as important is the fact that we think that this person can continue to coach and guide our current staff to continue to improve, and
Yeah.
that's going to
Quality
be good too.
improvement.
Which I agree. If he knows as much about technology and what we need as I think he does based on this discussion, I think he could probably help the employees that will be working under him and train them, but he also needs the autonomy, that if it's not working or they're not learning what they need to be able to help our teachers and our students with the technology, then he needs that authority, or she.
Yeah, Mr. Roush.
Just want to weigh in on this a little bit, just from a functionality perspective, and I'm very much supportive of this position. Networks are very sophisticated, and in order for them to work, we need somebody with a high level sophistication engineering, and really we've lacked that. And our network, with that particular kind of individual in there, will work, phenomenally compared to what it's doing right now. And you need somebody in there. You need that expertise. You can't rely on consultants, because consultants will be there one day. They may not be there 2 weeks from now. We could lose days in our classrooms and our buildings. And from my perspective, and I've been involved in this for a long time, different districts, this is just a must. And just from the peer communication piece into the classroom is the most important, but it needs to be continuous, and it needs to be monitored, and we need somebody in there with a high level of expertise all the time. And so again, I'm highly in favor of this position. So I think it'll save a lot of money, and it'll promote the educational environment tremendously. So I just wanted to weigh in on that. Thank you for that opportunity.
I have a question too after you're
Okay.
done.
I just want to say that based on our previous discussions and previous items about the importance of technology and having computers to utilize the curriculum, those computers only work to utilize the curriculum if our network works and if our systems work. So this is all one big interrelated piece, I think, which is the changing dynamic of education, but I think it'll be good for our students. So.
Mrs. Anderson, you had a question?
My question, I don't know if it's for Dr. Chestnut or Mr. Roush or Mr. Beckett or everybody. So the salary range, can we afford that? Because obviously this was not part of our budget that we decided, so this is in addition to, I realize this person already is getting a salary, and this would just be bump him up a little more, but my concern is, do we have that money?
And again, I'm not the finance guy, but I would say I don't think we can afford not to do something at this point in time. We are at greater risk for not making this kind of move than we are for allowing it to languish and, you know, Band-Aid it with
Right.
consultants.
Okay.
So I would just like to say, oh, go ahead, Mr. Roush. Yeah. Jump on in here.
Thank you. From a purely budgetary standpoint, yes, we can easily afford it.
We can?
We can easily afford it.
Okay.
We do have fund balances and stuff, so we try and always budget for our needs, but we do have sometimes some money set aside for things like this, and that's a smart thing to do. But I agree. I could see it costs more money in the long run if we don't have this. So thank you for the opportunity.
Dr. Miller?
Yeah, I just want to say, so then it seems to me that like within the organizational structure that now I would expect to see, now that we have less consultants, that we'll have more of an IT culture within the district because they are part of within the organizational structure in their own department. And so I can imagine seeing that from an existential point that would kind of really help build relationships throughout our school district because of this. Does that sound pretty on point?
That sounds good. I think everybody's kind of on the same consensus of this, that this is something that we definitely need and we should invest in. So, does anyone have a motion?
I'll motion to approve. Go ahead, Ms. Anderson.
Mrs. Anderson gets that one. I'll
okay,
give
you are-
Josh, you want to second it?
That sounds good.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Item E, elect governing board president to serve from January to December 2018. Before I give this up for discussion, this is going to be more hard than I thought it was.
Take a deep breath.
Woosah. Okay.
You're still going to be on the board. We're not
I'm
kicking you
still
off.
going to be on the board, but, well, no, surprise. No, I just want to thank this board for your confidence and support in me being the board president this past year, and actually the past 3 years. This year, I really tried to focus on the board, from all of us making changes so that we could foster more leadership on the board with our mentoring and changing policies that needed to be changed. Participating in our team building adventures ropes course, which I thank Mrs. Anderson for leading us. And even to the point of taking all these photo ops and our bios and headshots for our website. I think every opportunity that we've taken with this, we've become more approachable with our stakeholders. Unfortunately, that probably means your grocery shopping trips may take a little longer unless you're like Mrs. Knorr, who does ClickList. But I just think, for us, I think it was a really good year. And I gotta thank Dr. Chestnut. He's really helped me develop into the leader that I am. So thank you. I am confident and very pleased, and I won't make the motion. I'll let everybody talk about it first before I make the motion, but I know that Vice President Knorr is ready to take on this task. We've spent numerous evenings and conversations, and I know that she's ready to do this, and it is such an awesome feeling to lead this board and to be a part of this board. We're amazing, and I know that under Mrs. Knorr's leadership, we will continue to be amazing. So thank you, and I'll open it up for discussion before I get to make the motion. So I'm just letting you guys know, I'm making the motion.
Well, I would just like to say that it's been a great honor, President Coutre, to serve with you. You know, I know that at the beginning we really didn't know each other, and it's just been a pleasure to really get to know you, to see your passion for the school district and how hard you're working, because I know I definitely couldn't be in your shoes, or, you know, and done all the work that you've done, and your heart is in your minds definitely in for our school district. So you've done a wonderful job, and I'm very honored to have got to know you better, because, you know, I do definitely look up to you. Well, I look. Yes.
I'm 5'2".
But you know what I mean. I'm sorry, but you know what I mean. I have a lot of respect for you, and I think you've done a really great job for our district and our students and the parents. So it's been great serving with you.
Thank you.
And I'll continue to serve with you. So great job.
I'd just like to piggyback on what Dr. Miller's saying. And I think as far as the board members see it, because we work with President Coutre, but I don't know how much the public at large knows about the increased responsibility of the leadership position when you're the president. There's a lot more to this job when you're president. You have to work directly with the superintendent in terms of planning, in terms of setting up what we do here twice a month. So there's a significant increase in the amount of time spent doing this work, and I think President Coutre has done an outstanding job for the past 3 years, and I'd just like to say thank you.
Oh, thank you. So if there's no more comments, I would like to make an motion that we elect Vice President Noor as our new governing board president. So I made a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations, Mrs. Noor.
Thank you.
Meeting is yours.
Wow. Well, thank you all. I really appreciate your faith and confidence in electing me to serve as your president. And I can tell you that I know it was the right decision last year not to step into this role, and that I do feel comfortable doing it today, and that with your help, I know that we can continue to progress and move forward and become the A-rated district, A-rated schools that we want to be. And so I just want to thank you for that. And I really do think we have the best board in the state. And so I really am honored to have this position. So well, I guess I should.
You're at the next agenda item. You get to lead the meeting. I'm done.
That was a smooth
all yours.
transition.
Don't be so happy. We
I'm
should do this
switching
under item
seats.
F. We'll have this discussion under item F. Elect governing board vice president to serve from January 2018 to December 2018. And I'm going to open it up for discussion on that topic. So I think.
Go ahead, Mr. Judd.
Barring any additional discussion, unless we need to make it, I would like to nominate Dr. Miller for vice president.
Go ahead.
Well, I know my understanding, where we are in terms of where we're setting and kind of what, we want to move everybody through in terms of being, leaders. And I know that I'm the next one up, so I'm definitely happy to accept that, which means that you're the next up for VP, which then means that we're continuing to that flow. So being that we're the best board, perhaps, years from now that we'll have Ms. Coutre back president because we've rotated all the way back around. But that may be wishful thinking, but I would accept the vice president role just so I can learn more about setting the agenda and being part of active.
You're not on?
Oh.
So now I got to start over, like rewind.
I don't know, vice president
You'll
or
get
not,
that
I
ex-
don't
you'll
know.
get
I'll just say-
outside audio.
I'll just say I agree. Yes. Thank you.
So,
I'll second that.
okay, we have a motion. and a
Mr. Judd's motion.
motion. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And we are on our final item, 8A, adjourn. Do I have a motion?
I'll motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Second.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We are adjourned.
Note the time.
And the time is 7:44.
Sure.